The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. And a belated Merry Christmas from the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzalina, and I am joined by a guy who didn't have to wait super long tonight, but waited a few minutes for me to watch the end of Pitch Perfect because I love that movie. So thanks, Regz, this is the first he's hearing of that, but thanks for letting me watch the end of one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm not sure if you would have given me guesses if I would have guessed Pitch Perfect quickly. Not that you didn't like it, but just if you had given me, hey, what movie was I just watching and I wanted to finish before I came down here, I'm not sure I would have picked Pitch Perfect. Again, not because I didn't think you'd enjoy it, but I don't know how early it would have been on my list.
No, well, listen, I love movies in general. I will watch movies. I watched a lot of movies today because Andrea and I just hung out. And we watched 6888, which is a new movie on Netflix.
Yep.
With Kerry Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking phenomenal movie. Phenomenal movie. So we watched that. We watched, when we turned that off, like Home Alone was on, so kept that on. And then we were just, flipping through, and Andrea got to, the part of the guide where Pitch Perfect was. I said, don't you dare go buy it. Don't you dare go buy it. I absolutely love the entire trilogy of Pitch Perfect. And I will watch any of them whenever they are on.
Love it.
At any time. So this was Pitch Perfect 1 with a great ending. And so I watched it and it was fantastic. So thanks for letting me do that. How was your holiday, bud?
It was like I was saying, it was good. It's tiring. Probably much more so for my wife, who does all, most of the work. I just lug shit, from place to place and drive places. That's what I do. But you're up late Christmas Eve, you're up early Christmas morning, you're doing stuff. It kind of hits at you, Christmas night because you're just exhausted by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we got up and drove to Jersey to see my parents and my mom's side of the family. So that was, another enjoyable day, but long day of, keeping up with the kids and all that stuff. So you just get to the end of it. And you're like, I took this whole week off and I'm like, God, it's Saturday already. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know what happened.
Yep.
So Everything was good though. No problems, no complaints. Just ready to sit and do nothing and watch football tomorrow. That's what I'm ready for.
It's not a big slate tomorrow.
No, because there's been so many games throughout the week.
There's been 5 games already.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not like a huge
variety.
Huge slate. I'm actually going to pull it up right now. Now there are good games on.
Yeah.
You'll probably get Eagles Cowboys, I'd assume.
Yeah, Ravens have already played. I'm not sure when the Commanders play.
They're Sunday night.
Yes, then I should.
Yeah. So you'll get them at 1. The 4:30 game is Green Bay and Minnesota.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one.
And then Sunday night is Atlanta and Washington, which, should be fun. And then, Monday, Detroit and San Francisco. But yeah, you get a solid run of football tomorrow. I plan on watching football all day tomorrow. So pretty stoked about that, my friend. Pretty stoked about that. But you're for the same reason that, you think, oh, it's the holidays, you get a little breather, but you don't. I feel like you're more tired coming out of it than you are going into it.
Mm-hmm.
But similarly, like time with her family, time with my family, on the road for some of that. Her family lives really close. So most of Christmas, all of Christmas Eve, most of Christmas Day with them, and then drive, about 2 hours to Easton and spend about a full day and a half there with my family. So
Yeah,
Always a good time.
Speaking of Easton, we're going to see that Chili Peppers team that plays the glow in the dark baseball.
Oh,
They're going to be at the Iron Pig Stadium.
Oh, no way.
So my mother-in-law got the boys tickets, so we're going to be heading up there to see one of those games.
Now, I just saw that for the first time. What do you know about it?
So I guess they play like 5 or 6 innings of just regular baseball. You know, it's very Savannah Bananas-esque. You know, it's an entertainment product, obviously. But I guess then for the last 2 innings, the lights get replaced with black lights and everything glows in the dark. Baseball, bats, gloves, you know, helmets,
Uniforms.
cleats, everything.
Wow.
So they just shut the lights off and play in, you know, in these black lights. And that's kind of the last 2 innings. So the boys are excited. I guess they've seen it on YouTube before. So they're excited to be there in person and see it.
I just saw it on Twitter the other day. I was scrolling Twitter and I saw like glow in the dark baseball. I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
We used to buy like glow in the dark wiffle balls when we were younger.
Oh yeah.
But they never worked. Like they never worked, or they worked, but you couldn't see anybody around it. So it was like,
right.
The game was almost pointless. But yeah, that's it. When is that game?
That's a good question.
I mean, obviously when it gets warmer.
Yes. I don't know the exact date, but
sometime
when it's warmer.
That's awesome. Very cool. I didn't realize that was a tour. I thought it was just like sort of, you know, a couple of people trying it, but that's really awesome. What's their name again?
I think they're called the Chili Peppers.
All right. I'm just going to look them up then. Very cool.
I believe. She got the boys, their hats, and the hats glow in the dark, so they're all pumped to wear the hats. And
oh, no way.
Yeah, they're excited.
You should have worn it on the show.
She didn't buy one big enough for me. They were kid sizes.
Sit it on top of your head.
It would have just been sitting up there.
It would have looked like the ice cream helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, buddy, we got a full slate to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
I do want to just quickly give a shout out to the Sixers, who have won 8 of 11. They're climbing themselves back. Tyrese Maxey's starting to play better. PG's shooting the ball well. I saw someone online say something to the extent of like, I didn't realize we were getting a poor man's Tobias. And I was like, have you not, like, what are you watching? It's not even close to the same thing when he's on the court. Like it's not even close to the same thing.
Yeah.
And Joel, when he's on the court, has been good, but it's been hit or miss, and certainly they've still only played 3 games together, full games together. They, but things seem to be coming around a little bit. They got the Celtics on Christmas Day in Boston, which was a wild win for them because I'm pretty sure. Well, I know Porzingis went out with an injury. But everybody else played.
I was about to say when they started the game,
everybody
was ready. Yep.
So they finally got the Celtics. Obviously, you got to do it more than once. You got to do it. It matters.
Yeah,
but
right.
They are showing signs of life. We're not staying here long, but they're on a West Coast trip right now. Starting tonight, they got the Jazz, and then they go to Portland, and then they have Sacramento, and then they go to Golden State. And I said to you before we came on, wow, 3-1 is possible.
Yeah.
They do get Brooklyn on the road on their way back. 4-1 is possible. And, depending on who they decide to play in the back-to-back, that Golden State game isn't out of the question. So Sixers are making a little run at it here, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't been sucked in quite yet. I mean, they had to do this at some point to avoid one of the more disastrous seasons in NBA history, considering the hype that this team had around it. So I'm glad they're getting back on track. Glad Tyrese is playing better. Still would love to see McCain out there with them. It's a huge bummer that he's out.
Unfortunate.
Again, it was a great win against the Celtics. I'd love them to keep beating good teams to prove maybe that they can hang with some of these teams. But yeah, we'll see if they can stay healthy and how it continues to go. Listen,
6 games under 500.
The one thing I will say is that I appreciate that. Again, we'll leave Embiid and Paul George out of this just because of the injuries, but like it seems like the rest of the team or the guys that they've kind of keyed in on, like are playing hard and are trying to play the right way and do the right thing. So I can appreciate that for sure.
There's a realistic chance that this team finds its way up to like the 4 or 5 seed by the end of the year. If all things go right and they stay healthy, there's a chance they get there. They won't surpass the Knicks, the Celtics, or the Cavs.
Yeah.
But there's a chance they can get to 4 or 5. Right now, they are 3 games behind. 3 in the loss column, 5, overall behind the Magic. So not an impossible task. We'll keep an eye on it. We're not completely bought in yet, but they're at least starting to win our hearts back a little bit. And hopefully they can continue on that run here over the next week on the West Coast. But with that being said, let's jump to the team or to the sport that always has our heart, and that is the baseball team.
Yes.
I want to start briefly with the Hall of Fame before we jump into the actual team itself. Let's start with the Hall of Fame and just touch on the players that are first ballot guys. We do this every year, and then we'll hit on the guys who are on for the second time. So I'm just going to run up the list here. Fernando Rodney, probably off the ballot this time around. And if you do want to jump in or agree or disagree, please do. Carlos Gonzalez probably won't make it around the second time. Brian McCann played in enough markets that he might find his way staying on the ballot, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Adam Jones probably not lasting long. Russell Martin not lasting long. Hanley Ramirez, nope. Curtis Granderson probably not, but another guy who's played in enough markets that he'll land a few votes maybe, but he's not Hall of Famer. Ben Zobrist, no. Troy Tulowitzki ravaged by injuries, no. Would have been interesting though. He would have been interesting.
I mean, he was like the next thing. Like he was a big deal.
Yeah, just ravaged by injuries.
Yeah.
Felix Hernandez, I think, is a Hall of Famer. I think he is. Not first ballot, but I think he's going to stay on the ballot and end up there at some point. He was so good. He's another one whose injuries really sort of tore him apart.
Right.
But I think he's. I'd have to look a little deeper, but just off the cusp, I feel pretty good about that. Could be wrong. I don't know. Ian Kinsler, he'll stay on it. I don't know that he is one. If he is one, Chase is one. Like that was the same era of player, and Chase was light years better than Ian Kinsler.
Yeah. Did Kinsler win? He didn't win an MVP or anything, did he?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's going to get in. I could see him hanging around the ballot though. I'm also looking at like their total WAR here. I should have looked at K-Rod, or not K-Rod. Felix Rodriguez's. Did he reach? No, he only had 160 wins, 170 wins. I don't know. Maybe maybe
wild?
Not.
Isn't that wild?
He was another one who got beat up by injury.
Yeah,
but dude, he struck out like 2,500 guys.
Yeah.
Man, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, it's pitching is so tough because I'm not sure we're going to see another 300 game winner.
No.
Like I just don't think it's going to happen.
No. But he's one that I'm wondering about. I'll be curious to track his votes as we go here. See if he can stay on. Pedroia is a possibility.
Yeah. What's he got? 2 championships?
I think he might have an MVP, Regz.
He might.
I can't see that here, but I think he might have an MVP. Do you mind looking that up?
Yep, I am.
I think he does. Sabathia and Ichiro are locks to me.
Yes.
Ichiro better be unanimous, by the way.
Oh, I can't imagine how he couldn't be. Yeah.
Well,
Pedroia, 2008.
okay. You say you don't know how he couldn't be. Remember, there were 3 morons who didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr.
Come on. Like, just come on. Let's just. I hear you, but come on.
I know. For the rest of us, I think Billy Wagner gets in this year.
Yeah.
No one else Andrew Jones is on his 8th year. He had 62% of the ballot last year.
Mm-hmm.
He might climb, but I don't know. A-Rod only had 35% of the ballot. I don't see anybody else here getting in. This is Chase's year 2, right? He's 29% of the ballot in year 1. So that's a good sign. Would like to see him get up over 40 this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he can get himself up over 40, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Certainly don't want to see him plateau.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to see him stay around like 33, 34. Right now he's at 29.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to see him plateau. You want to see him climb. Jimmy's in his 4th year at 15%. Bobby's in his 6th year. Also, if they have the exact same 14.8%. So, my guarantees are Billy Wagner, Ichiro, and Sabathia.
Yeah.
I think Pedroia stays on, Kinsler stays on, Hernandez stays on, and that's pretty much it to add to the guys who are already there. I don't know that anybody on it's going to fall off. I mean, Torrey Hunter is still on. It almost makes you wonder, like, if Adam Jones. I think they were pretty similar players.
Yeah,
looking back
I'm
on
not sure
it.
either of them are Hall of Famers.
Torrey Hunter, 350 home runs. Adam Jones, 280. Just wondering if they had similar 2,400 hits. Adam Jones didn't even have 2,000 hits, so maybe they weren't. It's always interesting to just like look at. They had the exact same batting average.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we'll track that. I don't have it. I do think A-Rod should get in, but we know how that goes. But I do think he should. I mean, when your WAR is 118, like it blows everybody else on this list out.
That guy was so good. Like, he's a Hall of Famer. Like, say what you will, he's a terrible broadcaster. It is what it is, but like, that dude was a phenomenal baseball player. That dude's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. Like, it's that simple. When you talk about truly iconic players,
yeah,
from our generation, or it was probably like just before we were really into baseball, but from our general generation, it's like, it's him, it's Griffey, it's Jeter. Ichiro's one of those guys. There's a handful of pitchers. Like, those were the guys.
And I want to put into perspective something you just said. I'm going to take one of those names because it's the name right in front of me, and that's Ichiro. I just said that A-Rod's baseball reference WAR is 117 or 118. Ichiro's is 60.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Ichiro is one of the greatest to ever do.
Well, that's what I mean. And then you say Ichiro, and you're like, yeah, first ballot. Like, you don't even question it. And we're like, we're debating Alex Rodriguez. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you look at Ichiro had 3,000 hits. I mean, A-Rod had 3,100 hits. Ichiro had 3,000. Now, Ichiro also came over here,
right?
Like, super late in his career
after having 2,500 hits in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
5,500 total hits in his like baseball career.
It's unbelievable. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. A guy I don't want to see on is Manny Ramirez, former Dodger. I never want to see another Dodger do anything good again in my life. And that includes Freddie Freeman because I love him. But I've had enough. This is ridiculous now.
We've talked about this plenty of times. I get it that it's in it. They're not breaking a rule technically. I understand. But if this team goes bankrupt in 10 years, are they just allowed to like keep their championships, their World Series championships? Like, why is that a viable practice that the MLB as a business should allow to happen?
Right.
Because it's just like, oh no, we don't have to worry. The people who own the team now are literally saying, oh, we don't have to worry about money.
Don't have to worry about it. Yep.
We don't have, like, what are you talking about? Every other baseball team worries about money.
Yeah.
So how can this be allowed to continue? I just don't get it. I don't get it. There has to be some sort of penalty when they either can't sell this team or something. This just can't be allowed to just happen without any repercussions.
Here's the fun part. The 2025 potential Dodgers lineup. Batting first, $680 million in deferrals. Batting second, $120 million in deferrals. Batting third, $57 million in deferrals. Batting fourth, $23 million in deferrals. Batting fifth, Max Muncy. Batting sixth, $50 million in deferrals. Batting seventh, $25 million in deferrals. Batting eighth, Michael Conforto. Batting ninth, Gavin Lux. Here's my thing. I agree with you. I know they're not doing it illegal, but it just kind of shows what I'm going to speak from a different perspective here. That this speaks to the state of the game and the ownership within the game. That like no one else is willing to outspend in this realm, right? Like I saw a bunch about like the Pirates today. And how unwilling they are to spend in comparison to a team like they like, what did I see? It was like 314 million in revenue this year, and the Diamondbacks were like just under 300, but the Diamondbacks have spent far more than the Pirates have.
Right.
The Dodgers make $334 million a year from their TV. To put that into perspective, the Yankees in 2022 made $143 million on their TV deal from the Yes Network. So like the Dodgers definitely are able to pull from this like front-loaded money area that they can do it, but they're not doing it. They're profiting from other people's unwillingness to spend. It's annoying. It's annoying, and I don't know that there's a team I'm going to cheer for less.
I think just very simply put, it's how can you allow someone to spend money they don't have, or that they openly, like, it's a known fact that everyone is just like, well, they don't have to worry about it because they're just going to sell the team.
They're open about not being the owners in 2030.
How can you be allowed to spend the money then? That's not your money.
Doesn't make sense.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, well, you're not allowed to spend it then. You're allowed to spend what you've made. Because you're spending someone else's money. That's like, it's monopoly money.
It's $1 billion in debt. Like when that ownership group takes it. Now some moron they'll
of course,
take it,
because it's
right?
the Dodgers, right?
But like this whole idea that they print cash and they're willing to win and da 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 da, like it's not. They're not doing like what the Phillies are doing is taking the cash that they earn and spending it. And I don't want to hear that they're not from anybody, because they're still going to be one of the highest payrolls in baseball this year.
Yeah.
And currently over the highest luxury line, which is not something the Dodgers are willing to do, which is why they're using all. Although I don't believe that. I think it still counts actually. Now that I'm saying they have to pay the tax. The deferrals do count against the tax. So I lied. I take that back. But they're not passing the buck down the line. Is I guess what I'm really trying to say. Like Middleton's not passing the buck on to his son, who's going to end up owning the team.
Yeah, but Shohei's true AAV isn't 70 million.
It counts though. Oh, his AAV is like 45, isn't it?
But that's what I mean. So it doesn't count.
But it's not 2, which is what he's getting paid.
No, right. They there's some rules that offset, like you said, he's getting paid officially 2. And yes, but it's not the full amount.
Right.
Which is what it should be. You signed a contract to pay a guy. I don't care when you're paying him. This is what you said you're paying him a year.
Yeah, I don't know what number counts for him against the tax.
It's not 70.
No, I'm gonna look it up though. Dodgers tax. Yeah, I look.
It's just the shadiest kind of BS business that you can like fake. And again, they just won a World Series, so they've done they've done what they tried to accomplish.
Yeah,
but it's just like to go into something and just be like, yeah, we can spend that because the whatever amount it is doesn't matter to us. We're not gonna they think they're not gonna have any repercussions to this, and that's that's not the way that everyone else operates.
Yeah, and they won't.
So they should be held accountable for the debt, even if they sell the team.
Yeah, Shohei's AAV $46 million.
That's $24 million that is just nowhere. It's just poof, gone.
Yeah, I'm sort of confused how they figured this out. I'm looking at the other ones here. Teoscar, $22 million. What's his? That's right. He's making 66.
Yes. It just doesn't. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just not on the up and up to just be like, oh, we can spend money because it's not going to be our problem.
Mm-hmm.
When no other teams operate that way. I'm not saying look, somebody tweeted the Phillies do have certain contracts that have deferred money, but it's not a guy. It's not a guy making $70 million a year and you're paying him 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not every contract that they give out. So it's
making 70 and he's making 46.
Yeah, right. And he only counts towards the tax for 46.
Yeah, that's cheating the system a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll never understand it.
I won't.
I just wanted to say that I hate them, and I hope that they never win another World Series.
I agree completely, and I hope that ownership gets stuck with the debt, even if they sell the team.
Well, baseball's gonna have to step in.
I'd say I'm not buying this team unless you deal with the debt. I'll pay the market value. I'm not taking on that debt.
It'll be really interesting to see if no one does buy it, which isn't happening. But I think baseball assumes that then. I think baseball has to assume it.
Cool. Great. Then every team should be doing this.
That's right. That's right.
It's just ridiculous.
All of you do it. All right, let's move on to the baseball team that we care about and that we love. I do have a little mea culpa here. I went off last week a little bit about Kepler. I'm not gonna lie. There was I had a bad taste in my mouth about it. Not that I'm totally there, but I think I was a little harsh on the deal. There's this old adage that I forget in the heat of many moments, and it's there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. And this guy is not far removed from really good seasons. He was really banged up last year, like supremely banged up last year. And I think, it's one of these, every once in a while, a team signs like a role player who makes a huge difference for them.
Yeah.
And he could certainly be that guy. He could certainly be the guy who makes a difference for them at the bottom of the order. He's not going to have to, hit cleanup or hit leadoff or any of these things. So, maybe it is worth just waiting and seeing. And hopefully he can yeah, it sounds like he's going to get a bulk of the starts at least to begin the year.
Yeah.
And I think, in my head, I think I'm okay with that at this point. I definitely wasn't, but I'm in a better place now than I was last week around this time. So a little mea culpa there. Want to give him a chance. Want to see how it plays out. I do think that there's still a usable player there. Both from a defensive situation into an offensive from an offensive standpoint as well. I think there's something left. It's a guy who's got something to play for. His career is still out in front of him. If he wants like a multi-year type of deal moving forward, this is the year to go get it. So that's where I'm at, Regz.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like you can't blame Max Kepler for this or there's anything like that. I get it. I just think I think the reason we all were questioning it is what's the logic behind it? It's a guy who's never played left field, is another lefty when all you've been doing is searching for a righty for out there. And it's another guy who, maybe has a good chase rate and things like that, but really doesn't, again, as of, again, he was injured, things like that, but doesn't do a ton of damage despite not swinging at junk most of the time. So, again, yes, you give the guy a shot to see what happens. You certainly think that he can play a decent left field given his defensive abilities and the fact that Citizens Bank Park in left field is not the hardest thing to play in the world. It's just it was a different move than a lot of us were expecting. I think that's what it came down to.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. None of us were thinking Max Kepler was even a possibility. And then he ended up being a Philly. And sometimes those unexpected things can lead you to some sort of feelings. And we definitely had some feelings. I am of the mindset and of the belief that, this is a guy who can help you when you look at what else is there. Unless you're going and getting Hernandez or Santander, I don't know that there's much else there to really look at and say yes to. So when you're looking at your needs and what could fit that, and a guy who, it sounds like Kevin Long went and watched him, and we've said before, we trust Kevin Long when he looks at a guy and thinks, so I don't necessarily change that. This isn't a guy who's got to change an approach for, but maybe if there's one tick in his swing, he doesn't have to change his approach, but maybe he could mess with his, with his hands or something like that. And off he goes, and off he goes to another 25 home run season. That would be nice to have sitting at the bottom of your order.
Yeah.
Where we lack serious power. So yeah, there with that. And then, like literally 2 days later, I'm in the car on the way to Penn State and get a message that the Phillies have traded for Jesus Lazardo. Texted you immediately.
Yep.
Thrilled. Didn't even know the return at that point. Was just thrilled that because you've said it multiple times on this show that they just need to be really good somewhere.
Yeah.
And it looks like they have decided to go all in the rotation. Just for context, they traded Starlin Caba, who I put in a lot of fake deals this offseason. And they traded a Marion Boyd, who is basically like Johan Rojas.
Yeah.
Super athlete with a bat that we're not sure about, fields the position well, runs well, but not really sure the bat's ever going to come around. It's basically the same thing as Starlin Caba. Very high-end defender. Don't know if the bat's ever going to be a thing. But we do know Jesus Lazardo, when healthy, is very, very good.
Yes.
And they are taking a chance on a guy who had back issues last year.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, they've done their homework on these guys. They're not just trading for them blindly. Like, that's all got to be stated. He's a guy with 2 years of control at a low number. And I want to just, as we move into this season and the following season, keep a close eye on Garrett Crochet, who also has an injury history, probably a worse one than Lazardo does. And keep a close eye on Sean Manaea, who re-signed in New York this week at like $23 million a year for 3 years. Jesus Lazardo could end up being the best get of those guys when we look at it in the long run. I think it's going to be better than Fried. I mean, freaking 10 years, right? We saw the Diamondbacks today signed Corbin Burns. I'm not sure Corbin Burns hasn't regressed. I saw his strikeout rate has dropped by 5% each of the last 3 years. So Lazardo could end up being a move that we look back on and say, oh, okay. And it's another lefty Regz to combat a very lefty heavy National League, at least from a competitor standpoint. So interested in your thoughts. I give the deal freaking A. Like, I not even hesitating. It's a win for the Phillies at the forefront. Obviously, these things are always fluid, but at the forefront, this is a win.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I think we've watched enough Jesus Lazardo with our own eyes.
Yeah.
This isn't going on YouTube and looking up highlights or just looking at Baseball Reference. We've watched this guy.
Oh, yeah.
I tend to have faith in the Phillies' ability to set up guys for their most success. Listen, do guys get injured? Of course they do. No one is immune to pitching injuries. But I really do think the Phillies have a system in place that allows guys to be as uninjured as possible.
Right.
And especially if they're willing to commit to that system and, do what they're asked to do. It's been successful. And I think to your comparison with Crochet and Manaea and all that, like, he's making $6 million. Sean Manaea is not a number one, and you're paying him $23 million? Again, Garrett Crochet is a one. Everyone understands that. That is what it is.
Yeah.
The Red Sox gave up a lot to get him. And yes, he very well could be very good for them. But just think of the pressure that is off Jesus Lazardo in this rotation. And what that could potentially allow him to free up in himself. Or, like, who the hell I know I'm just talking out of my butt, but sometimes, like, stress and pressure relates to injuries.
Yeah.
Like, when you're the one guy who's any good on a Marlins team for 5 years, that stuff gets to people, and it changes how they do things. It changes how they think they need to pitch. It changes what they think they need to do to stay in a game longer or whatever it might be. Jesus Lazardo can come in here, and at most, he's the number 3.
Right.
And that's the max amount of pressure that will be on him. We're not asking him to come in and save a rotation. We're just asking him to come in and be a part of one of the best rotations in the National League. like, we've got the horses, we've got the guys who are up and coming. Like, just step in and do what you do, man. And I don't know. I think that makes a difference. I don't know why. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, I want to say when it comes to Lazardo and what my memory, my main memory of him is his start in the postseason against us. And he, he went 4 innings and gave up 3 runs, and it took him a little bit to settle in. But he was starting at Citizens Bank, right? Like, talk about pressure. Game 1 at Citizens Bank at a stadium that was starving for another shot at a World Series. And I don't remember how many he struck out that night, but I feel like it was a lot in those 3 innings. I'm looking. He had 5 in 4 innings, which is a pretty good number. And I feel like those 3 runs all came on like 1 hit. The Phillies had a bunch of base runners that.
Yeah.
But I what you said really resonates with me. When the Phillies get a guy with this much talent, they turn him into something. Like, look what they did with Christopher Sanchez, who doesn't have nearly the pedigree
Right.
Jesus Lazardo. So now you take that pedigree and boom. I see them turning that changeup into something. I'm excited for it. I look forward to what this is. That's a really tough rotation to face in the postseason. Really tough to face in the postseason. And don't forget, Andrew Painter's going to be around at some point.
Yeah, and look, and even if you put Lazardo in the bullpen, this guy's coming out throwing 98.
Yep.
With a crazy slider. And again, you hope maybe a feel for a changeup. And the one pod I was listening to, Gelb almost guaranteed he's going to be throwing a cutter or something. That they're going to put that into it.
Yeah. I foresee some real good stuff from this rotation this year. What they did here was add a certain amount of depth. And with the next move we're going to talk about, because essentially what this does is it moves to Iwan Walker to the bullpen as a swingman. Walker had a video posted today of him, his offseason stuff. He is throwing 92 in his offseason workout. It's a big deal. Again, I don't expect him to be anything more than the swingman, long man, but he's going to have to start games in that role. Like, it's going to happen. So if you get Taiwan throwing 92, 93, that's typically where you want him. And if he's healthy, then you get that. But that's now your 6th starter. Number 7 is a guy they signed almost a day after the Lazardo signing, and that was Joe Ross.
Yeah.
Joe Ross is a former National, former Brewer. And to me, he's their bet on their next version of Hoffman. And I'm not guaranteeing that he's going to be Jeff Hoffman. I want to be very clear about this. What I'm saying is they're hoping that they can take his stuff and translate it into what Jeff Hoffman became. Here's what I want to point out. Last year, Joe Ross went down to the Milwaukee bullpen and appeared 15 times. In those 15 appearances, he had an ERA of 1.67 in 27 innings. He struck out 9 per 9 innings. Okay? That, Regz, 95 to 98 coming out of the bullpen. Right? So there's your Hoffman velocity. Hoffman was 96, 97, 98. And then drops that slider. So he can start if need be. There's your 7th starter if needed. Right? So you've got multiple guys now at the big league level. This is where they struggled last year.
Right.
When guys went down, they had to go pull Tyler Phillips.
Right.
Like, this year, it's going to be, okay, well, we got to sit through a Taiwan Walker start. But the one thing we know is going to happen is that Taiwan will go out there and innings, even if he's getting the shit beat.
Right.
Where like Walker, like Phillips couldn't even get you out of the inning at times.
Well, yeah, right.
Not that Walker could, but you knew Walker would.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mentality was definitely there. And I do expect Walker to be, if he's healthy, be a little bit better this year. I do expect that.
You would hope so.
You would hope so.
Can't get much worse.
I also feel like the Ranger component is really interesting here, because we immediately had the conversation of, well, will they trade him now? And I think the answer is no.
I think it also is no. Right now, I'm not saying at the trade deadline it couldn't happen. When teams are desperate, maybe for starting pitching, because of injuries or something like that. But
if you're ready to bring Painter on, which I don't know that they're going,
right.
But from a Phillies standpoint, it makes sense to hold on to him, because now you know he's a Boras.
Right.
And Boras is going to be in his ear about starting games, and this is the time of your life, and you got to get this money.
Like, hey, you better be in shape to like show that you can throw innings and stay healthy and.
Yep, and this also, the Lazardo move protects you from having to.
Yes.
So you basically go into next year with your rotation set with Painter.
Mm-hmm.
It is as beautifully done of a trade as it gets.
Yeah.
Because Ranger's going to be on his way out, and you keep Lazardo around.
Right.
So I love the Ross move. I'm a huge fan of the Ross move from a bullpen perspective. I still think there's a chance they make a trade. Bohm is still very much a possibility when Bregman goes.
Mm-hmm.
None of these guys, again, Romano, Lazardo, Ross, Kepler, none of them were talked about at any point. And they're all Phillies. So if they do trade Bohm, look for it to be someone that we've never even discussed.
Yeah.
But I do think it's very interesting what they've built themselves from a pitching perspective, from a staff perspective. There's a lot of real upside here is what I'm taking away from this.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what you talked about. I talked about it plenty of times. I get it, maybe the options for the outfield and to change the lineup weren't there. Then just go be great at something. Make a move that makes you elite at something.
Yeah.
And I think they went and did that. And I think they had to, quite honestly. I think they had to do something to make something elite. And
let's not forget, this is a top 5 offense still.
It should be, yeah.
I mean, statistically last year it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what we went through. I know what we saw. But like, it's not like it's a bad offense coming back.
Yeah.
Like Max Kepler doesn't make them worse.
No.
He doesn't make them worse.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we're anticipating some more decline from JT Realmuto. When I look around the diamond, that's the place where I see the decline. I don't know that I see it anywhere else. Stott's not going to get worse.
Yeah, you really hope that was kind of it.
Trey was 295 last year. Don't think that's going to, change a whole lot. If Bohm's back, I actually think he's going to have one of his better years because he's going to be pissed off. Bryce is Bryce. Schwarber's in a contract year. I mean, maybe we do get a better JT. He's in a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Nick is Nick.
Yeah.
So, I don't see the offense getting much worse.
Right.
And now you just load it up on a rotation that has more depth than it's had in Andrew Painter now becomes your 7th option for the rotation. He's in no rush to get here now.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff. I'm in a really good place with the Phillies right now, Regz. If you had to ask me 1 to 10, where are you at, Azzy? I'm in a solid 8.5 right now where the Phillies stand at this point in the offseason.
Yeah. I think I agree with all the offensive things. I agree with the rotation. I think adding Lazardo was an unbelievable move considering what they had to give up. I think the place I'm at is I need to see the bullpen prove it. I think that's where most of the questions are.
Yeah.
But again, all things considered, when you look at bullpens around the league and you look at the Phillies, you're like, look, they're not that, they're not that bad. When you look at who
you don't
they
have to
have
look
back
much.
there.
You don't have to look much further than the division for that.
Yeah.
The division's a mess in the bullpen. Mets haven't done anything in there. So I still believe that there's a chance they add another arm to their pen. I firmly believe that's possible. We'll see what it would be, who it would be, but I do believe that there's another arm possibly floating around. But right now, we had talked about, holy crap, this bullpen as constructed. I think I wrote it down a couple of shows ago, but as constructed, it wasn't looking great.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the possibility of one of those bottom guys from the 40 man having to take a spot.
Yeah.
Well, now Joe Ross and Taijuan Walker hold those last two spots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really not an issue. Like Joe Ross can be a middle relief guy until you see how he does in high leverage.
Right.
But like, say he becomes your Jeff Hall. That's $4 million you're paying that.
Yeah.
Jeff Hoffman's going to get $12-13 million somewhere. I don't know. Sometimes you got to run your organization this.
Yeah, I get you. And look, they've, for what it's worth, to the Phillies' credit, this coaching staff for the Phillies, the pitching coaching staff, has proved their ability to do this.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot to have that kind of confidence in the pitching development of the Phillies, but they've proved it, man.
Yeah.
And so I think that has to weigh into this. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt with how this staff has developed and maintained the pitching on this team.
Yeah.
For the past several years.
Yeah. I trust Caleb Cotham with like every ounce of my being. I have so much trust in that dude. Just from a I can get the best out of you perspective.
Yeah.
He just always seems to figure out ways to make dudes better. And I fully anticipate that being the case with who they're going to run out there this year. Here's the bullpen as constructed today. Tanner Banks and Taijuan Walker are probably your like long men, right? And then your two high leverage lefties are Matt Strahm and Jose Alvarado. Just hope Alvarado is better than he was.
Yes.
And then your middle relief. Well, another fire putter outer long man is Jose Ruiz, at least for the
right.
And then your righties, late inning, Kirkering, Romano, and then Ross is your, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I actually feel better about this than I did 2 weeks ago when Romano was the only signing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye because who knows? We could wake up tomorrow and have a new film because that's what Dave Dombo does.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. This came on the day that the Eagles played the Commanders. That was the Lazardo deal. They play Dallas tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. And we're here to talk about Regz, the Commanders game.
Yeah.
One of the most annoying football losses in recent memory for me. Not angering losses. Like, I wasn't angry. I was just really annoyed at all of the things that had to go wrong for them to lose that game. And they still almost won. They should have won.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Commander fans on social media talking all kinds of shit. Like to the point where I'm like, are you guys actually this clueless about what happened in that game? Like, someone put on social media, a Commander fan put on social media, who would you rather play in the first round of the playoffs, the Rams or the Eagles? And the amount of people that said, we'll just beat the Eagles' ass again.
Oh, my
just
God.
blew my mind. It blew my mind, Regz. Like, and here we are. I'm over here praying that that's who we play in the playoffs. Like, I'm praying for it. Let's start with the obvious. If Jalen Hurts doesn't leave the game due to concussion, what do we think they win that game by?
They might have scored 50 points.
And is Jalen playing? I think Jalen's done in the middle of the third quarter.
I agree.
If he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
That game would have been 21-0 if Jalen didn't get hurt. Not 14-7 due to an interception.
Right.
So I want to start there. That was number one. That was number one. Jalen getting hurt.
Yes.
Was number one.
And apparently worse than any of us thought it was.
Yeah. Regz, I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of me, and I know that the NFL is in charge of this, but I almost think that the Eagles are like taking a deep breath, like, okay, good. Like, we don't want something worse to happen.
I think now they are. I completely agree with that's how they're handling this now. I completely agree.
Yeah.
They're like, why risk anything to have him get more hurt?
Yeah.
But again, now, I think they will play him against the Giants just to get a little bit of reps in.
2 drives, maybe.
They're not going to be calling QB draws. Like, they're not going to. He's going to be sliding 5 yards before anybody gets even close to him.
I don't even know if he's gonna run.
Again, I think it will be extremely conservative with the running part to just avoid any chance, of a weird hit. Yeah. I do think that's what they're doing now. Why? Yeah. Why bother? Why?
Yeah.
Even if there's a chance it could, he takes a weird hit and it gets worse. Why do it?
Yeah. The second thing for me, the drops.
Yeah.
And one more so than the Saquon drop on the sideline. That was a really good play by. Like,
and could have been. I
heard it
throw.
Was a drop. Right. I heard it was a drop, and I was like, was it though?
Yeah.
That ball was really underthrown, and Bobby Wagner got his hand in there. I actually thought he caught it when I watched the game back. I was like, oh crap. And that can't be the drop. And then I saw the ball like squirm out. And then because if he puts that ball out in front of him, it's probably a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. There was nobody there.
And that's a throw I trust Jalen to make.
Mm-hmm.
And then the obviously the Devontae drop. Like, he's either walking that in for 6 or he's sliding and they're kneeling it out at that point. Yeah. And look, he's had a couple of weird drops this year. And both the 2 that I remember most were the Commanders. He had one in the home game against the Commanders on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Early in that game. Mm-hmm. That was super weird. So, those hurt. And then obviously the Chauncey ejection was just brutal. The 12 men on the field thing, which should have been blown dead, but no one's talking about that. 12 men they broke the huddle with 12. So that should have been called dead immediately. The play should have never run. But the officiating was some of the worst I've ever seen. Oh my God. Like, ever. I've seen Commander fans be like, well, the pass interferences were trash. Well, first of all, AJ Brown said it best. Marshawn Lattimore would have been fouled out in an NBA game. Like, even without the one that you all are questioning, because and look, AJ did have his hand in his, but good, like really good NFL wide receivers know how to get that call,
right?
And he went and got that call. Chauncey, for me, look, he must have threatened to commit murder to someone's.
When have we ever seen something like that?
We haven't. We haven't. And you know, there were some people barking up the tree of like the head official being from Detroit. Like, and he truly is from Detroit. But I'm not going that route. I do buy into the fact that the NFL like does have their hands in certain things. And I do think they need a game for Sunday Night Football. If the Eagles win last week, it can't be Eagles Cowboys. If the Eagles win, who gives a shit? The Commanders don't really have much to really like. That game doesn't mean as much then. Like, so I do believe that there's some pieces of that. Is it why they lost? No. But are some calls made to keep games close? Yeah. Like some of those calls were made at a point where like the game was out of reach already, but somehow kept them in the game. And I know I sound sour grapes. I don't want to be that guy. I don't. Like, let me say this. Jaden Daniels, a real problem. The dude's really good. However, he also turned over the ball 3. So like he's not this like unbeatable force.
Yeah.
Like the Eagles defense was on the field a shit ton in the second half because the offense couldn't get off the field, couldn't stay on the field.
Right. Even after all the turnovers, they couldn't stay on the field.
No, like 3 of 16 on third downs. When is Jalen Hurts ever 3 of 16 third downs? And a lot of those third downs were third and short.
Right.
and or like 3rd and 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that you can't do in 3rd and 4 and 5 against the Eagles is count out the run with Jalen Field.
Right.
With Pickett, they didn't respect it at all.
Yeah, I think that's the best explanation I saw is I was listening to the Philly special, and they do the film, Shield is the film review with Sean Syed every Wednesday. And he's like, look, the linebackers for the Commanders were just sprinting into gaps. He's like,
downhill.
If anybody is there to just make them hesitate for 1 second, all that blocking looks different. All the running lanes look different. He's like, it's really hard when they have no hesitation and they're just immediately they're flying when they see the ball getting handed off. And and Shield said, look, it looked to me like it was one of the offensive line's like worst games they've had in a long time. And that's true. They were making some mistakes.
Yeah.
It wasn't their best game.
And some of that's due to the unfamiliarity with
But Sean's like, look, if the linebackers literally have to just pause for half a second, those plays look different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they just didn't have to. They just, as soon as it looked like a run, they were flying.
Yeah.
Down the field.
And my concern level with the Eagles right now, is 0. A lot of people ask me like, well, aren't you nervous? Like this is why they fell apart last year. No, they fell apart last year because they had no defensive core.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was turned over the ball 20 times last year because he was trying to overcompensate for a bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the anomaly right now. 2022 Jalen 8 turnovers. 2024 Jalen 10. Most of them coming in the first 4 weeks before we finally settled down. And now they look a lot better. He looks a lot better. I'm not concerned for them from a defensive perspective whatsoever. I do believe that a lot of what happened this week was fluky. They turned over the ball 5 times. 5 times. If Jalen's on the field they got 6 points on 4 of those turnovers. 6.
Yeah.
If they score a touchdown on any of those, including one of the ones they got the field goal on, they win the football game.
Yeah.
And no one is going to convince me. No one that they don't score 1 touchdown off of 4 turnovers.
The way they were moving the ball, absolutely.
At will.
Yeah.
Those first 2 possessions were at will.
Yeah.
Till he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they didn't call a penalty there. Probably a penalty, Regz. Probably a penalty. He doesn't have to slide. Like, you can still tackle a dude and hit him in the head and it be personal foul.
Right.
unnecessary roughness. Like when you watch the replay, Luvu's arm is extended as he dives into Jalen.
Of course
like,
it is, because he's going after the quarterback.
Yeah. And that's something I think if you do play the Commanders, two things that they're going to have to be very aware of. The first is that they're going to do whatever they can. They're like, they know how they have to win that game. They know they know how they have to win it. Like, so they're going to, it's like the one podcast I was listening to about Notre Dame and Georgia this week, that like, they're going to look to hit Riley Leonard. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Like, you want to hit him. You want to be violent.
Yeah.
But that's what the Commanders are going to look to do to Jalen Hurts. They're going to look to be violent with Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And if that comes briefly after the play or as the play is ending, it's going to be. They'll take 15 yards
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to make Jalen think twice.
Right.
The other thing they're going to do is they're going to try and make it chippy.
Yeah.
They're going to try and make it chippy. And they're going to try and get under CJ's skin, and he's gonna have to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
I disagree with what happened. He must have threatened to murder someone.
When have we ever seen someone thrown out for talking?
And someone said to me that they thought it looked worse than typical taunting. I was like,
what does that mean?
I watched CJ their point was that it was happening after play, and I was like, I watched it back. I did not see it that way at all. Like not even a little bit. It was typical CJ. Like, that's how he plays. Like, he wasn't doing anything differently than he does.
You're telling me guys aren't talking after every play in every other game that happens?
No, give me a break. Give me a break. It like they lost. Now people can't say he's not the most important offensive player. And they lost probably their one of their most important defense. Is he the most important? No, he's not.
Yeah.
But is he one of the most? Absolutely he is.
Yeah, because it's a big drop off from him to McCollum.
100%. So two things that the Eagles are going to have to be aware of. And I think individuals. Jalen's got to be aware of, they're coming for him, man. They're going to be violent with you. Right or wrong or indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
And CJ, they're gonna try and get you worked up. Keep your head on straight. I'll tell you what, that Eagles team will be very locked in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Very locked in. They're gonna want a little bit of revenge. So all of that, to say they should have won the game, they didn't win the game. They still need to win a game to clinch the division and give themselves the 2 seed, which still could lead them to home field advantage for everything but the Lions.
Right.
And the Lions could get beat before they even meet. So I do want to ask this. Let's say they win tomorrow. We're going to get to our conversation about Dallas here. And they clinch it. They get the 2 seed. They're not guaranteed the Commanders. There's a chance that they could end up with, I think there's a world where they could get the Falcons. There's a world where they could get the Packers. And the most certain world at this point is the Commanders. I will tell you right up front, in no way, shape, or form do I want the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round. No way. Do I think the Eagles can beat them? Yeah, 100% I do. They already did, and I think they're a better team now than they were in week 1. I also think that the Packers are a much better team now too.
Yeah.
I don't think the Eagles hold a weather advantage over Green Bay. I know they don't. So that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
If I had my choice, I've already kind of ruined this. I would definitely want the Commanders. And then I would probably want the Falcons coming out of a dome. Michael Penix having to play his first playoff game in Philly.
Yeah.
I would take that in a heartbeat at this point. But I really would prefer to not play the Packers, Regz.
I'm with you. Last thing on the Commanders. Sirianni, can you not add like a 7-year-old who just lost a little league game? Like talking shit to Zach Ertz of all people because he hit your hand too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You're a head coach of an NFL football team. Can you not act like my 6-year-old who just thinks he lost his T-ball game?
Good point.
Like, I don't care. what he did. You're supposed to act with a level of professionalism that exceeds everyone else's on that field.
Good point.
Why do we need a head coach who acts like a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
I don't care
Yep.
if he came up to you, said, go F yourself, and I hope you like hit a tree on your way home. You shake the man's hand and you keep walking. Tell your wife when you get home and complain about it all. Like, yell in your pillow if you have to. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing we can say for sure is Nick has a lot of strikes against him right now. He's got a lot of good things going for him, but you know the owner, and
that's what I'm talking about. You think Jeffrey Lurie saw all this and was like, "Yep, there's another pro box in the Nick column."
Yeah. That's one of your most legendary players, and that is just certainly not a moment.
Jeffrey,
not a moment.
Mr. Jeffrey, he hit my hand too hard and I didn't like it. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? You're a grown man.
Yep. Sometimes.
God almighty. Will you just stay out of your own way, please? Please.
Sometimes.
All right. I'm with you. I want to see give me the Commanders. They don't lose to this team with Jalen Hurts. It's plain and simple.
No.
They would have scored 35 points. The Commanders have 3 less possessions. The Commanders don't score that many points.
Yeah.
Because we convert 2 of those turnovers into touchdowns. They score their own touchdowns. We hold the ball for whatever because Jalen's ability to keep running the ball, and keep the defense on their toes. Like, it just doesn't happen. Give me that team again. And like you said, this team will be so locked in for that game.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
That, listen, did Jalen Daniels put together a great last drive and do some special things? Absolutely he did. The kid is going to be a really good quarterback.
100%.
So, take nothing away from him. He did what he had to do to win his team the football game. He still turned it over, like you said. They weren't a perfect football team, and they were getting their absolute butts handed to them until Jalen Hurts went out.
Yeah. Yep. So I'll take them. That would be ideal. It feels like a team who would just be happy to be there. It felt like beating them this week was sort of a Super Bowl moment for them. And that they'd just be happy to show up and play a playoff game. The Eagles have bigger goals in mind. So let's move on to tomorrow's game. Dallas at home. Micah Parsons saying all these things about wanting to ruin the 1 seed, wanting to ruin their season. No CeeDee Lamb. All 3 of their 4 top cornerbacks out. A week to prepare with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
An angry Eagle team. Now, no Jalen, we know that. No N'Kobe, that's newer. Rainy elements, I believe, tomorrow at kickoff.
Yeah.
I fully expect the Eagles to handle business tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be pretty. The Cowboys have been playing better. It's a better team than it was when they played them last. However, they've gotten a lot out of their run game. I don't know that they're going to be able to run the ball on the Eagles. CD's not on the field, so that takes
Huge
away
difference. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about that at all.
Yep.
Like at all. So to me, the line has not changed a whole lot. It's still a 7.5 point line. Let's just jump into keys. I'll start, and I think it's leave last week and last week. And they talk about keeping the main thing, and the standard. Well, go and keep that in mind tomorrow. Forget last week. It's can't change it. It's a loss, and the 1 seed might be out of reach now, but win the game, and the other 2 teams have to win their game.
Yeah.
So, if they don't, then you go into week 18. See what happens. But for me, it's leave last week and you'll win this game.
Yeah, I I just expect the defense to have a big bounce back. I don't think Vic is happy with how things ended. I don't think the defense in general is happy with how that game went. We've seen their ability to make adjustments and be ready to go. And I think this is the perfect week to use as like a get right week for the defense. And like you said, put all that behind us. We know who we're playing this week. It's not, the Commanders in terms of talent, but just use this week to shore up everything, the fundamentals, the communication, where people are supposed to be, all those things, fix calls, everything. Just go put this team in the dirt from a defensive perspective, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, Regz, I got 28-10 Eagles tomorrow. The total's 38.5.
Mm-hmm.
I got it just under, but 28-10.
Yeah, I had 24-13. Like, it's not going to be close. The Cowboys will get a few, maybe a touchdown, a few field goals, but I don't think we're going to blow the top off. I'm just hoping we just kind of grind it out, get out of there with the win, get the run game back on track. Do what you got to do just to get out of there with a win, and then, rest the guys you need to rest in the next week.
Let me ask you this here before I do have a quick fixated tonight. Let me ask you this. Eagles win tomorrow. Let's say both NFC North teams win tomorrow. Okay, so you're pretty much locked into the two at that point. You are locked into the two at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a number that you would be willing to put Saquon out there to break the record next week? Is there a number of yards needed that you'd be willing to put him out there for?
80.
Interesting. Okay. Mine was like 12.
Oh, well, that's fair.
I don't want him seeing the field unless it can be one carry.
I was going to say anything less than 100, but 100 still seems like a lot. So I just wanted to bring it down from there.
Yeah, no, if he can't do it in one carry,
listen,
meaningless game.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I got nothing. And I think he feels the same way.
I agree.
I think he needs a week off. I think. And I did want to talk real quickly. Guys that if they win shouldn't see the field at all in week 18. Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
So I agree with you with them, but if you're getting Jalen a few reps, I maybe don't mind playing the starting wide receivers with him so he can get the feel with those guys and not Johnny Wilson and whoever other
I think
wide
at this
receivers
point in
they
the
have.
year, at this point in the year, I don't know that matters a whole. Like, he's done so much work with them that
Listen, you might, yeah.
My biggest fear, Regz, is they get on the field and they take one wrong step or they get one bad hit. Like that. Remember, that's when AJ got hurt.
Yeah.
The last week of the season, AJ got hurt in the last week of the season, and it couldn't play against the Bucs. I really don't want him on the field. He was limited. He was limited with his knee this week.
I'm on your side. I'm with you.
I feel the same way about Devontae.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Johnson better not be on the field. Jordan Mailata better not be on the field. I think you're going to have some of those offensive linemen on the field.
I think Juergens usually is one of those guys.
Yeah, you're going to have certain guys on the field from an offensive perspective just to field a team. Saquon clearly won't be able to be Gainwell. Now, Shipley has a concussion. Hopefully he can be back.
Hopefully he'll be all right, by then.
Otherwise, you'll see one of those practice squad guys elevated. From a defensive perspective,
give Jalen Carter the entire not a bit of the field.
Yeah, I don't want either corner on the field.
I don't want Bond on the field.
I don't want Reed on the field.
Nope.
I don't want CJ on the field.
Nope.
I'd prefer to not have Josh Sweat on the field.
Yep.
And look, you're gonna have some guys again that have to be out there just for numbers purposes, but they're not gonna be playing full throttle.
Right.
So that's totally fine.
I don't want Jalen Carter Darius Slay.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Zach Cooper.
Yeah.
But if you're giving me one, like Jalen Carter better not even have a uniform on.
No. He won't. He won't have one. No, certainly not. All right. Yeah. And we'll talk about that. Not then everybody's playing against the Giants, at least for the first half.
Right.
Everybody will be playing against the Giants. Tomorrow is enormous. Last week would have been enormous from the perspective of like, you could have sat some guys this week.
Yeah.
And then, sat some more guys next week. So everybody got a chance to sit a week here at the end of the season. But at this point, that won't be the case. They got to win tomorrow. And look, maybe you find a way to blow them out like you did last time. And some of these guys didn't play the third and fourth quarters.
Right.
Hopefully you can find a way to do that and get out clean with a win. Okay, real quickly, just want to talk about this. So if you've listened to the show and you've been a follower since we've been on, I'm a Notre Dame fan. And if you follow college football, then Notre Dame is not in a conference. And they get a lot of crap for that. And I've always kind of been like, whatever, it's stupid. Like, who cares if they're in a conference or not? And then the playoffs started, and I started to be like, oh, they're going to get screwed because they're not in a conference. We're going to get a bye. This turns out I really don't care about that in the long run. That doesn't bother me. But this whole, the whole conference thing is weird to me. And let me tell you why. There's like a big argument over who's the better conference, the SEC or the Big Ten. Like their fan bases are constantly arguing. And I'm here to tell you this. They both have magnificent flaws. Like both of them. Let me start with the SEC. The SEC just has like such a talent pool that everybody's good, so they beat the crap out of each other. And that's what kept them out of the playoff this year. Or at least the teams that were in it. From a Big Ten perspective, they are very top heavy. Like their top 3 teams are very good. And then you get down to the bottom. Purdue might be the worst team in college football. Like they truly are. They arguably are the worst team in college football outside of Kent State. I believe Penn State played both of those teams this year, if I'm not mistaken. But they might be the worst team in college football. So what's weird to me is that they watch these bowl games and they're like, well, the Big Ten, the USC beat Texas A&M, and oh my gosh, they're better. And then you look at the bowl game and who played for Texas A&M, and it's like a lot of these dudes opted out. So it's not even a true but they're watching it on pins and needles. And really the only way you're going to know, I guess at the end of the day, is who is the national champion, right? Because at this point, you've got 2 SEC schools left and 3 Big Ten schools left. 2 of the Big Ten schools play each other this week. Notre Dame plays one of the SEC schools. Texas plays Arizona State, so they'll walk to a win. The real way I'd like to see this handled is that Notre Dame takes care of all their asses, and we can just say conferences freaking matter. Conferences are just weird cults that you all cheer for, and they don't matter. So if Notre Dame could just handle business and then beat Penn State next week, then, we don't even have to have the conversation. Then whoever the heck should. And we say, you know what? The real way to go is. But at the end of the day, look, I think what my point is, both conferences are good. It doesn't matter who's better. Who cares? Who cares? Big Ten fans that I know are always complaining that the SEC fans are shouting how good they are. Well, I'm here to tell you, y'all are starting to do the same thing. I'm getting text messages about the SEC and how they're losing. You're doing the same thing now. Who cares? Cheer for your team. Cheering for a conference is plain weird. It's weird. Even during bowl season, it's weird. Cheer for your team. You won't find me cheering for my rivals. When the Phillies lose in the postseason, am I cheering for the Braves? No. I don't care if the National League East is better than the National League West.
Right.
Like, who the hell cares? Cheer for your team. Who the hell cares about your conference? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. All right, that's it. That's where I'm at tonight. Go Notre Dame. Go Irish.
Yeah, go Irish.
Can't wait till New Year's Day at 9 o'clock at night. What a joke. All right. If you've listened this far, go ahead and follow. Click the subscribe button below us here on the YouTube channel. Follow wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you rate and subscribe there as well. Go head over to social media at the Phixated Pod on Twitter, at the Mic Drop 5, at Big Regz with a Z. Head on over to Facebook, Phixated Pod or Phixated fan page, and then at the Phixated Pod on TikTok. Click the merchandise link in the show description below. We will be back some point next week. I'm pretty sure next week's a pretty normal week. So at some point next week, probably Thursday, we'll be back to recap the Cowboys. We likely won't talk too much about the Giants. Just give our wishes for the postseason. Maybe the Phillies will have another move. Otherwise, it could be a short show from Regz and I next week.
Could be.
We might need to have a couple of little games to play or something.
We'll figure something out.
But we look forward to seeing y'all next week. Until then, be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and we will talk to you next week. In the meantime, go Birds.
Go Birds. Go Irish.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.